What's up guys and welcome back to On The Brick. If you remember, a few weeks ago I showed off this spaceship that I made, asking for your suggestions for what it should be called, and I got a whole ton of them. However, two stood out above the rest. The first comes from Michael Eggers, who suggested naming this the Long Range Detection Frigate, or the LRD pronounced Lord, specifically so officers and staff can say something like, Overlord has eyes ahead, or Overlord standing by, something like that, and I just really liked that idea, so I am naming these the Long Range Detection Frigates. And in addition to that, Clone Plays suggested a different name, and he decided to nickname this the Long Claw, and I just really like that, because that is what it looks like. So the LRD-027 is specifically Long Claw. But here's the thing, if they're a support class, what exactly are they supporting? Well, allow me to introduce you to the Destroyer class. And this thing is massive. It sits at 3,536 pieces, and it just dwarfs the Long Claw here. And before I get any further, keep in mind I am absolutely taking name suggestions for the Destroyer as well, so leave them in the comments down below. Just like in Star Wars, I personally think that the Destroyer class is what makes up the bulk of the fleet. This is what most people are going to be seeing when they call in the quote-unquote big guns. In my fleet, one destroyer is almost always escorted by two frigates, even though they do have a full array of sensors throughout the vehicle. Now, unlike Star Wars, the destroyer isn't really meant to look intimidating as much as it is meant to just be powerful. If this thing shows up, then you are absolutely in for a long flight, or you've already lost. Now, there are some small guns and whatnot on the front of this vehicle meant to help protect it dead on. Usually those are going to be used against smaller fighters, as this is definitely more like naval combat where it will come at you from the side. And that's why there's a good array of options on each side of this ship. One thing I really quickly want to point out though is that giant gray area in the middle is where I eventually plan to put maybe some sort of logo or name, something like the UNSC, but whatever we can come up with, and I want to put it there. I had an idea and was messing around with some things, so if you can make out some letters, that's why, but I wanted to see what we could all come up with. Now, anyway, in the back of the destroyer, we have these 8 PDCs, or point defense cannons. They're mainly supposed to be used against fighters and smaller vehicles, but they can be used against other larger destroyers or frigates. Now, one thing that's really nice about these LEGO vehicles is you can imagine what any of this is. For instance, these next 4 squares with the macaroni slopes, I think they're called, I don't really know what they are. I've personally imagined them to be some sort of defense mechanism, but if you have any other ideas, let me know. But with that said, next to that are 8 ingots, which I personally have seen as missile launchers, usually of like a greater variety than what one might expect here on Earth. Again, this is meant to destroy other spaceships. And I do like to try and keep things realistic, so I don't really have any like laser weapons or anything like that here, but who knows. And if you look directly underneath them on the bottom of the vehicle, you see that little gray area with the slopes coming down. Like a lot of people, I really like the seismic charge from the Slave 1, so I figured this destroyer should have something similar at a larger scale. So I was thinking maybe this is where some like EMP detonators come out, or something like that. To the right of that, you'll notice there are some headlight bricks which are backwards. Again, I take these to be like missile launchers or something. And again, this is where that logo, like the UNSC or whatever it is, will go. Moving on to the right of that, this is where I would put like a really high-end missile, something like a nuclear missile or something like that, that really needs a specific point. I don't know. I think there could probably be better ideas for this one, actually. And then of course, above that is a small hangar. Now this is not meant to hold a lot of vehicles by any means. When I tested this out, it could hold about 5 or so comfortably, and that's really what I was looking for. As I was looking for each destroyer to have like a very dedicated fighter group that could help defend the vehicle if need be. I do think that this hangar bay is a little too big for that, and I'm thinking of maybe making a second version of this without a hangar bay at all. But one thing I am really proud of for this vehicle is how the front of it slopes together. I am going to keep working on the top section here, but I love how I managed to pull off the slope here, and they actually do connect. It's a pretty sturdy connection. And going back to the top, there is this giant gun here, you know, like the ones that you would see on an actual destroyer back from like World War II. Now, this is the main weapon of a destroyer. This thing hits you and your ship is pretty much going to be gone. But the one downside to it is it doesn't have a full 360-degree scope. It can get most of that, but it can't get all of it, which is why the majority of the weapons on the side are in the back of the vehicle, because the front is pretty much covered. Oh, and one more thing about the front is that there is actually a second, very small hangar down here that is meant for nothing more than vehicles to come in and out very quickly. I kind of like to think that this is connected to the top hangar, and this is more for the fighters, while the top could be for like diplomatic reasons or something like that. Because, you know, it's not all war, this is meant to be just a space fleet, so who knows what's going on there. Maybe there's like a consular mission, or something that requires a formal place to land that isn't this. One place that I had a whole ton of fun putting together are of course the engines. I always have a lot of fun trying to make these things look cool and have all the pipes and making it look a little intricate but not too much. And I think here I did a pretty decent job at that. You have, of course, the 2 large engines and then 2 very tiny ones on either side as well. Honestly, I have probably spent more time just trying to design engines than I have entire vehicles before. And that is the destroyer class. So again, let me know your suggestions for what the destroyer class should actually be called, something along the lines of like the LRD or the Overlord class. And if you have any nicknames for 760 specifically, I would really like that. I have a few ideas in mind, something maybe like the Valiant Taste of Death, but I would love to hear your thoughts. I have actually designed a few other vehicles since this one came out, and am currently working on a carrier class that I cannot wait to show off because I just love how it's looking. So if you'd like to see those, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe so you know when they come out. Also, consider checking me out on Instagram, Discord, and of course on Patreon, where you can join all these wonderful people, and there are some really nice benefits on their way. And you can even get shoutouts like Jonathan. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.